Hey, what's up y'all? Rowan here and welcome back to the Ultimate channel. Today, you're gonna learn how to throw even further on the forehand side.
McDonald with a gorgeous put.
Yeah, what a dime that was from Rowan McDonald.
Forehand power is important for you because not only will your game hooks improve, but you'll also work on efficient mechanics that'll help you break the mark, throw with touch, and become a better overall thrower. Throwing the disc fast is imperative when we're talking about distance. It doesn't matter how fast you can spin it or the angle. If you're not generating any miles per hour, the disc isn't gonna go anywhere. How can we add speed to our forehand? The first place we're gonna start at is the back swing. A lot of the speed we get on throwing the forehand comes from range of motion. So if we're a newer or unexperienced player and we're just throwing forehands like this, we're limiting ourselves on a lot of this power. If you look at a screenshot of myself throwing a full field huck, you're gonna notice two things. One is that this elbow is way up and back, and the other is that this torso is actually rotated almost 90 degrees towards the sideline. This allows me to get this maximum range of motion so I get momentum into the snap. Let's go over briefly the steps on maximizing that range of motion. One is you want to step out a little forward and a little bit to the side. Now a lot of time there's a mark you have to deal with, so you can't go straight forward, but by kind of bringing the step up and out to the side, that's going to allow you to kind of bring this opposite shoulder towards this front foot, open up your torso, and get this elbow back. Part two on the backswing is focusing in on this elbow. Once it comes back, you need to lead with it first, and you can't bring the disc and the elbow together at the same time. If the elbow comes first, then you're pulling the disc behind, and it's gonna create that whip at the end. The backswing is all about creating this really long whip. You're not pushing everything at the same time. A common mistake developing power, you see a lot of players throw and push. What happens is the step curves, you get your weight loaded into this foot, you start rotating, the elbow leads, and that pulls the disc behind on the wrist. The elbow hits a spot where it stops, and your wrist and middle finger rotate around it. You'll know that you've done this part correctly when you throw a full power forehand and you almost snap back. That's because this right foot is an anchor that grounds it and lets everything rotate around it. And when the disc pops off your hand, you'll fall back. You don't have to be the strongest player in the world to throw far. It's all about timing. We talked about how to get this big wind up and backswing. Now let's talk about the timing that it takes to throw correctly. The first thing, of course, is this foot, this anchor point. Small tip for throwing for max power is this back step. That's gonna allow you to start using that torso rotation. A little tap here and push. That's going to start the body turning. The elbow comes forward, and the important timing cue is that the wrist needs to stay loaded and a little bit back until the very last second. A lot of people think the elbow drive and then the wrist is everything, but there's actually a part between the wrist and the middle finger that is the tip of the whip where you get that maximum distance. So as the elbow comes forward and kind of hits that spot where it stops, like it can't go forever, the wrist comes next in the timing, and then at the very end, the middle finger and wrist snaps forward, and that last part, if done correctly, can launch the disc. To maximize the timing on everything, the backswing is getting momentum for that final portion of spin and snap. This video is sponsored by Excel Ultimate Training. Jack Williams and myself teamed up to bring you field workouts to practice every skill needed to succeed in Ultimate. We send you 2 workouts a week with a guided film study to make you a well-rounded, better player. Now that we've talked about how to generate more speed in a throw, we need to talk about how to maximize distance. If you simply throw a disc as fast as you can, it's not going to go as far as you'd like. You need to take into account a few factors. The first one is angle control. As you're throwing a disc as fast as you can, the disc is naturally going to want to turn over and blade off to the side. So the first thing you need to think about is the edge control. The edge of a disc is referred to as the inside out, flat, or outside in, which controls the shape of the flight. When we're throwing for max distance, since it comes out so fast, we need to start with a little inside out, knowing the disc is going to turn over. The second and real critical angle on a huck is the nose angle. The nose angle dictates how high the disc goes. If you throw a disc as fast as you can, chest level, gravity is going to take it down and the huck is going to be short. You do want to give it a little nose angle to fight gravity and let the disc do its work in the air. All right, here's our field test for our angle control. Again, a little bit inside out, pointed down, knowing the disc will turn in its flight. We're giving it some good nose angle to fight gravity, and we know we do this correctly when it goes up to the right and drifts flat to the left, giving it maximum distance. That one even started to helix at the end. That's probably as good as it gets. You get the left drift and even a little more push while it goes back to the right. Now here's the common mistake when we add too much nose angle. That slows up the disc so it doesn't turn and it ends up stalling at the top and falling backwards, losing out on that valuable distance. On the flip side, the other common mistake is full power throw but too low. This one doesn't give it time to float and drift and hits the deck early. So that one you saw came out a little bit low, which led it to turn over. And also, by only going 5-6 yards off the ground at maximum, it didn't float for our receiver. The last pro tip here is if you don't want to change the angle and have it go from inside out to outside in, which can be a little bit challenging, you can start it outside in the whole time, but just know you have to give it a little bit more height to slow the disc down so it doesn't blade. Let's try to lock in an outside in for maximum distance. I'll take that one. It was a little bladey at the end, but it drifted a little bit, giving our receivers a chance. The last thing, and possibly most important thing on our list when we're throwing for distance, is spin. Spin is critical in 2 separate areas. First, if you do not have a clean release and the disc wobbles, what's going to happen is every little wobble is going to get eaten up, and if you can throw it super fast, within 10 to 20 meters, you're going to lose a ton of speed because the wind keeps hitting parts of the disc. Even if it's a dead wind day or a calm day, the disc is still going fast enough to generate a lot of breaks on those wobbles. Instead, if you get a clean spin, the disc is not going to get slowed down too much because the Frisbee was designed to fly, and the wind is just going to get through the edge and the dome of the disc super easy, and you're not going to lose speed in that first 20 meters. Let's take a close-up look at the spin. My tip here on your grip is to just make sure there's no space or gaps. That leads to some movement of the disc in the wind-up, so when you release, there's moving parts, and those lead to wobbles. I personally pull the whole disc into my hand from the rim. Let's throw some wobbles and some no wobbles, and you'll see the impact on the disc. That one I threw at 30% with a loose wobbly grip, and you saw that it just halfway through its flight hit the brakes, bladed, and turned over. This one I'm gonna throw at 30% with hopefully not as many wobbles, and we'll see how it does. Honestly, that one went twice as far and I barely put anything onto it. I just spun it and let it do the work. The second part to giving the disc extra spin is in the late flight. If you don't put that spin on it, the disc is not going to hold its shape. It's going to get moved with the wind and you're not going to have a consistent flight path. Instead, if you give it that last snap, that extra rotation, the disc is going to get a little bit more weight. It's going to hold its shape, whether that's outside in, inside out, and it's going to give you more control over that distance you just added. If you want to learn more about translating this power into certain shapes like the fastball, the helix, the break side fade, then come over to Excel Ultimate's training program so you can work on how to translate these raw skills to the game. You can check out our program in the link in the description. I hope this video was able to add distance to your forehand. Go out, practice, see what happens, and if you have any questions, leave them below in the comments or find me on Instagram. As always, the best way to improve is to practice, so get out on the field and try these things today. Peace.